So what we have here is a polygon modeled guitar, and if we were to look closely at this guitar, you will see that there are a few issues that are happening that are causing some weird things to happen to the polygon mesh that we definitely don't want. And this is a result of just some modeling techniques or some not obvious things that you may do when you're modeling that can kind of compound as you keep modeling. So what I want to do is I just want to point out some of the issues that are happening here, have some tips and tricks, and sort of kind of show you some things that may not be obvious, but hopefully you can recognize in the future as you model your other objects in polygons. So I'm going to select this model, and it is in smooth mode. It is in smooth display, and I'm going to go hit 1, and that's going to bring it to just the regular smooth, so not smooth display. I'm going to also do a couple other things just for my display here. Since I'm just working on the polygons, I'm going to go up here in my viewport, go show, and I'm going to turn off show everything, and then just turn on polygons. So it's only going to display the polygons of this model, and it's not going to show anything else. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to go up here into the main menu, go to display, and there's a heads up display. And in the heads up display, you can have this little, it's sort of like a data thing, and I'm going to check poly count. And this is just a, it shows you how many vertices, edges, faces are in the scene and what are selected. So if I were to go, for example, select nothing, you can see that nothing is selected, it's all 0. If I were to select this model here, it's going to show you how many vertices, how many edges, how many faces, and so on. And that can be helpful along the way. So now one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to display, and I'm going to show you just some things that will help you identify what's going on. So display, polygons, and this is just some more display modes. And I'm going to tear off this window here and just go to kind of show you just some tools that'll help you identify some of the elements of your model that you have here. The first thing, with the model selected, I'm going to do face normals. And what face normals are, that just shows you which way the faces are pointing. And sometimes there's a lot of faces here, but sometimes you can identify where, sometimes if a face is pointing the wrong way and you don't know why, you can identify that. Sometimes faces get flipped. You can also see where there are actually faces. And what I'm seeing from here is that there are some polygons and some faces that are in the geometry but aren't exactly in the front of the geometry. So for example, there's something going on in here that there's another face in here that's pointing out kind of this way, and I'm just kind of wondering, you know, there's somehow there's a face in there that's hidden that got modeled in there. This is kind of confusing, so I'm going to turn that off. Vertex normals, this shows you where the vertices are coming out of. It's just going to, where the points in the vertices are, it's going to have a little one of those little green line indicators to show you where the vertices are, which way they're pointing as well. I'm going to turn that off. And another one that's probably a good one to look at is non-planar faces. So this is going to show you what faces on the model are not flat, non-planar. So basically they're bent, and that's going to identify maybe some problems later. So what we have here, this is showing a non-planar face, and the reason why it's non-planar is that there's some other polygons or some vertices in here, like this one here, that is not making it completely flat. And that might not be obvious, but that might cause you some issues later. So I'm going to turn that off. So this is just a tool to maybe identify some of the elements that might be hidden or wrong or not just obvious. Invisible faces, we don't have any invisible faces on this model, so those aren't going to show up. So I'm going to get rid of this window here, and now I'm going to kind of go look at this model and go, okay, well, what exactly is going on here? Non-smooth here is looking fine, but if I were to press 3 and display smooth, you're going to see some things that are going on. Let's go to object mode. Okay, why are you not? Let's just go to standard edges. There we go. Maybe that's why. Yes. Okay, so if that happens and you're not able to select your object for some reason, you can go into display, polygons, and make sure that standard edges are selected, and that will display all the edges. So again, let's just go back here and kind of look at what's going on. This is non-smooth, and if I were to press 3 to smooth it, you can kind of see what is going on here. Let's take a look at this section here, that non-planar edge, that non-planar face here. Let's go back. It looks flat here. It's not perfectly flat, and if we were to smooth it, you can see what's going on is that all these edges aren't connected. There's a bunch of vertices. This is like a multi-sided polygon, and when you smooth it, it's going to pull. And it's not, because it's not really connected to anything, it's gonna, the way that the smoothing action works is that it's going to pull all the edges where there's nothing to pull on it, and it's going to give you a very strange shape like that. So that's one of the things that we're going to want to address there. Let's go over here. There's something that I saw here. Now if you start seeing this sort of thing, I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a black artifacting thing going on here. And what's going on there is that there are two faces stacked up on top of each other. They are intersecting. And the reason why that is happening is that they're overlapping here. And they're overlapping because somehow this polygon here got pulled down and is overlapping with this face here. So that's something that we're going to want to correct as well. Let's go up here, and we can also see that if you look into the neck, and I don't know if you can see this, but there's an edge that's hidden behind this other edge here. There's actually two edges going on. And if I were to press smooth, you can see what's actually happening is that there's actually two pieces of geometry sandwiched next to each other. Not perfectly sandwiched next to each other, but they're connected, but they're not connected exactly. So what that's going to do, let's just turn that off, is that it's going to, it looks fine here, it looks like it's connected and everything, but it really isn't. So when you were to smooth it, it's going to kind of pull and smooth, and it's going to give you some weird lines here that aren't really going to help you out. So basically there are two pieces of geometry here that aren't connected properly, so we're going to have to correct that. So I like to work in just on smooth mode here, and the first thing I'm going to kind of do is start cleaning up my geometry here, and I can start by going into the edge mode. If I right click, go into edge, and I'm going to just start taking these edges and deleting them, and I'm just selecting them and pressing delete on my keyboard and deleting some of these edges, so I get a clean geometry here, because those edges aren't really necessary. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Now let's see if we can correct this overlapping polygon here. So I'm going to grab that, delete it. Let's do that one, delete it. Oops, see, that got rid of that. Delete that one there. Let's delete that one there. And this might not solve our problems completely, but it's going to help. And now we've cleaned up this geometry. Let's just look at it smooth. Oops. No, that's not what we want. We want this one here. And it's maybe even caused more problems than I wanted, but we're going to have to fix that later. So let's go back to here. And let's kind of look and see. There may even be some more geometry back there that I'm not seeing. Sometimes you want to go into just regular wireframe and see if you can identify anything in the wireframe. And I don't see anything necessarily, but that doesn't mean that there's not something there. Go back into shaded mode, and what I'm going to want to do also is that you're noticing that these edges are separated, and I'm going to want to fix that as well. So I'm going to go right mouse and go into vertex, and you can see that there are vertices where there once was some edges connecting there. Now I'm going to select a vertice. Now look up here in my heads up display. When I select a vertice, it's going to show me what is selected. And then I can delete it, and it's going to say that's not deleted. So I can go through here and just make sure that I'm selecting one vertice at a time, or if I drag and click one vertice, or if I want to drag two at a time, just make sure that I'm selecting two. It's actually, I selected three there, and I do want to select all three of those, and I don't want to delete those. And now what I've done is I've straightened that polygon face there. Let's just take a look and see if it, well, it's still got some problems here, and there's actually something going on down here, and I want to see if I can fix that as well. And what it is that it's just pulling way too much. There's just too much weird action going on there. So now if I wanted to make this a little more smoother, and so it doesn't pull so much, it doesn't create all that weird pulling and smoothing, what I'm going to want to do is do some edge loops or connect some kind of edges here. And there's two ways that we can do that. The first way to do this is we want to go into object mode, and I can go to edit mesh, and I can go to insert edge loop tool, which you are probably all familiar with. Now if I were to go and click on my edge loop tool, and I let an edge loop go, you can see that it didn't go all the way. What I want to do is I wanted to connect it to this point here. So let's redo that. Let's undo. I'm going to press G to interact that tool again, drag on that edge, and it's not going all the way around like I'm expecting it to. So basically what I want to do is, if I wanted to connect, and the reason why it doesn't do that is because it's not going to insert an edge loop where there is not a four-sided polygon. It's going to stop where there's a multi-sided polygon there. So to connect those two edges there, and before we do that, let's go get rid of this edge here and delete. We got rid of that edge there. There may be some artifacting in there as well, but let's just deal with that later. So what I'm going to want to do is I want to connect these. I want to connect that with an edge. So to do that, before there used to be a split polygon tool. Now there's an interactive split tool. Let's just see what that does. So it's going to go to this point. I click on that. It's going to go to this point. Click on that. Press enter, and that will connect that polygon there. Let's do the same thing. If I press G, it's going to connect that point. Connect that point there, and I'm going to press enter, and I've connected that polygon. I notice also too that there is a, let's see if there's an edge here. Okay, so what we've done is we've basically connected this, those edges and those polygons right there. If we were to go to object mode again, select it, and press 3, you can see that it's not perfect, but it has fixed some of the problems.